Hey, Pat, I just want to say I noticed your shirt.
Oh, yeah?
What a dad.
What a dad.
I like that. That's a good shirt. It's punny. It reminds me of something I enjoy. Reminds me of something I've never had and never will. Dad.
Man.
and,
there you go.
And it's classic, dude. I like that shirt.
Yeah. Is it presumptuous, to assume I am what a dad?
Here's the thing. Whataburger, delish. Dad, I don't know. But I presume if you mix a Whataburger and a father, it's a good combo.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that also that shirt can be taken as sarcasm.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Because you could be like, wow, Pat, what a guy. Or you could be like, wow, Pat, let me tell you, what a guy. You know what I mean? It could go both ways. So it's a shirt that's not too arrogant. It could be either. Also, I think you're asking for trouble because there's the, people who are, I don't know. Actually, we should make an In-N-Out dad shirt. Because that would be so. I can imagine so many people being like, "What the does that mean?" It'd just be like, "I'm one of those In-N-Out dads." Like I just show up for my kid's birthday and I'm out.
There's a gas station chain I can think of that wouldn't make a pretty similar shirt line as well.
Bro, what if we just start adding dad to the end of chains? That's hilarious. Yeah. Anyways.
So are you?
Hold up. I want to tell you something.
Oh yeah.
I'm pissed.
You're pissed.
Yeah, because for the last 2 weeks I've been looking like an absolute crack addict.
With your glasses?
Yeah. And you ain't commented about my nice new glasses yet.
I see that now. They look good.
Yeah, bro. Well,
you had to. It looked like you had used like some whatever was on there. Was it like? It looked like it was being held together with Play-Doh, like homemade Play-Doh.
Epoxy. No, it's not Play-Doh. It's epoxy.
It looked like homemade Play-Doh.
Yeah. I'll give you a hint. Who makes these? These are like a very nice brand name glasses.
Not seeing any logos.
The logos. They take the logos off.
Well, yeah, but sometimes they're still written. They're engraved in there on the side. I mean, you have your Ray-Bans, you have your Oakleys. But I mean, is it like a?
I'll say this:
is it a French designer?
Just like all, really nice, fashionable things for men. It's a brand of a black man. Like I'll stand on this hill and die on it. It's probably an anthill, but I'm gonna stand on it and say that the things that men look the best in, I'm not gonna say are always designed by black guys, but are definitely black guy owned. Like, have you seen? Okay, Jordans. Jordans, Yeezys.
Can't compete.
Let's be honest. Suits. The oh gosh. Host of Family Feud.
Oh, Steve Harvey.
Steve Harvey's suits, Steve Harvey's ties, all that ish is it's the best. I love my Harvey suits. I had them, got them from JCPenney for like $300. They don't fit anymore because I've been doing a lot of leg days. But this too, just like all those things, these glasses are a black man's brand, and he is a fashionable man. Let me tell you,
Cat Williams.
What? No, not Cat Williams. Ask me like ask me a question. Like you're asking if I'll let you do something. Like think of a question where you're asking me if I'll let you do something. And what my response will be a hint for who these glasses belong to.
Like all I can think of to say is, would you let me do something?
It's a no from me, dog. It's a no from me, dog. Bro, you don't know.
I'm not up on it. I'm not up on it.
Oh, okay, all right. American Idol host.
Oh, yes. Randy. I'm Randy Travis. It's Randy Jackson.
Randy Jackson, bro.
There you go. It's a no for me. I got you now.
Dude, I saw these glasses. One.
He's always had good glasses.
Dude, he's always had slick glasses. And dude, tell me a time when you saw Randy Jackson on The Idol and he didn't look freaking good.
He's always looking better than Paula.
That's going to be a no for me, dog, dude. I had such a crush on Paula growing up, dude.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I would die for that woman. Dude, she's so beautiful.
I haven't watched Idol since they got rid of Dunkelman or whatever his name was.
Huh?
I don't know. Nobody knows. It was originally
Simon Cowell?
No, there was Seacrest had a sidekick, and his name was something Dunkelman or whatever.
That at all.
And they got rid of him like halfway through season 1.
Oh, really?
Just done, yeah. So it's hilarious. Like Seacrest, like just boom, just skyrockets into the nighttime, and then just Dunkelman just.
That's hilarious.
Who knows
dude.
where he went?
Wow, I've never heard of that because I'm not old, so
Yes,
I never saw season 1 of
American Idol. Yeah, you have to look up who that was. I'm trying. It was a D name, but I haven't watched American Idol in so long because one, I just don't watch like normal TV anymore.
Trash
and so many. I mean, it was so good. Like when it was so fun when you'd watch it, and the next day, like everybody at school was talking about it. You'd have like a couple kids talking about whoever was sang the night before and who they were voting for, and you had your flip phone, your Razor.
Yeah,
I didn't have a Razor. I was jealous, and you'd be texting in your votes for your person, and it was just so fun. It felt like everybody was in it, but now you have so many of these, vocal shows that, and the story's played out, and it's hard to watch Idol or for me The Voice. There's one now where they just wear like costumes. I don't know. What's the costume one called? The Masked Singer?
The Masked Singer, yeah.
There's only one Masked Singer. That's Gerard Butler in Phantom of the Opera.
Wow. That took me back, dog.
There you go.
I forgot that was him. Welcome to the Mick Pat show. I'm Mick.
And I'm Pat.
We're just hanging out here tonight, as we usually do, having some beers. Throwing it back to good old episode 1 with some New Belgium beers. Pat, I was listening to that episode again.
Mm-hmm.
And we definitely said that the show was sponsored by New Belgium, and it was not. And I hope people know that was said in a joke.
Mm-hmm.
And now our attorneys are advising us to read off the script saying, no episodes of the Mick and Pat show have been actually sponsored by New Belgium beer.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we have had no sponsors yet, other than our own companies, our own LLCs that we own.
American Elbow Grease.
Exactly. So, just want to get that out of the way and clarify. Typical lawyers kind of jumping down our throats and that stuff, but that's why we pay them, right? Anyways, one thing I wanted to mention to you, Pat.
Mm-hmm.
I had this epiphany the other day.
Mm.
I see just how old my grandparents are getting and how much it costs. Granted they're on, health insurance and all that stuff, but how much it costs them to go to the doctors, right?
Yeah.
And I think about, how much it costs. My mom, she had breast cancer once upon a time, and the treatments and all that were expensive. I broke my femur snowboarding.
Youch.
This kind of defeats. We're going to actually ignore that one because that kind of defeats my point that I'm about to get to. But there comes a point in everyone's life where you end up spending a good amount of money when you go to the doctors. Like every time you go to the doctors after this point in life, usually is an expensive thing, right? And I'm talking for the average person, the average American, because a lot of other countries have, free healthcare or whatever. Yeah. And like there are some people who just ever since they're born, it's always been expensive to go to the doctor. So I'm not talking about them, right? This is the average American Joe.
Mm-hmm.
And around, some age, you reach it and you go to the doctors, and when you leave, even with your copay and all that stuff, you're like, good Lord, that was expensive. And I've decided that's the point when you're old.
That's the point.
That is the point when you are old. That is the point when kids can point at you and laugh and call you an old man. That's the point when you can shake your fist and tell them to get off your lawn. That's the point when your kids can legit be like, Dad, you're so old. And your wife can tap you on the shoulder and be like, honey, you're old. You don't understand it. Right?
Yeah.
That is that age. Because in that number, the way I'm going to measure it is that once you start spending as much, if not more, every time you go to the doctors, as you do when you take your car in to get repaired, like to a mechanical thing, that's when you're old. Like right now, in my 20s, late 20s, when I take the car to the mechanic for basic maintenance and stuff like that, do like fluid changes and, fluid changes like not more than just changing oil, but like get the wheels rotated, and an exhaustive check across everything, spark plugs changed, whatever. That is, it's more expensive than any of my freaking doctor appointments. Right. Like my generic doctor appointment, I go up to once a year. There's like, all right, $40. And I'm like, thanks, doc. But once you start going to the doctors and they're like going through a list of things, they're like, hey, we really shouldn't be pushing off your colonoscopy at any point. Like, well, you know what? We should really take a look at that back. Also, your sciatica, we should really send you to a specialist for that. And it's like you start looking at your own body as same way you look at your car's maintenance reports. And you're like, I ain't got the money for that today. Like, we'll do the oil change, do the tire rotation. The spark plugs are good for another 20. Same thing. You start looking at your own human body.
Yeah, we'll wait on the hip.
Start evaluating. Be like, the fibromyalgia, I'm not even sure if I believe I have that quite yet. I'm going to get a second opinion. I'm going to go to the doc down the street. But I tell you what, doc, let's do the colonoscopy, and I'll try the new topical cream for my dermatitis. I don't think I need the arthritis cream though. Like I'm gonna pass on that. Like once you get to that point, dude, that's when you're old. That's my decision is like, and I'm really set on that now. Like I've really rooted myself in that logic because it means I'll be young for a long time. Hopefully,
God willing.
But what are your thoughts on that? What do you think? Is that farce? Or does that make 100% freaking sense?
I think it makes good sense. I mean, yeah, excluding people who unfortunately have to struggle with conditions or illness and different things at early age, I'd say, yeah, that's for sure right. Like I had a customer today. It was so funny. I'm just going to do a quote, normally takes me about 10 to 20 minutes to get through the house, take some measurements, see what's going on, talk with the customer. And the other way you're getting old is when you've had the service guy at your house for an hour. That's how you know you're getting old too. Because the funniest thing was he acknowledged it twice during our conversation because we were talking about how we were going to do this work on his house, blah, 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 and stuff. And then the conversation just kind of kept going like this. He's like, yeah, we could come, we could, in the garage right here, we could do this. And, Jim Johnson had a garage once, and Jim Johnson was born in 1943, and his daughter Sylvia, she ended up going to college out east. And anyways, yeah, we could do this in the garage here, and that's how the conversation went for so long, where it just go down these trills. It was so funny. And I loved it because it kind of reminded me of my papa, who's left this place, and that's how conversations would always go, where you're just the classic old guy talking about something, and then and Petey, Petey had a pair of shoes once, and he was born July 3rd, 1932, and his pop owned a shop down on 3rd Street, and this one time there was a fellow there who came in and was real upset about the way that he...
I have other houses I have to get to.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So a couple times...
Sir, I'm your orchid man. I don't know who Pete is.
Exactly. And so a couple times during this conversation, this guy was like, he lost his train of thought and was like, well, I'm just getting old, so anyways. And he said that a couple times. I would make it like 2 steps down the driveway. He'd start talking about another thing, 2 more steps down the driveway. Finally made it to my truck, but...
Did you know anyone that he was talking about?
I mean, this old... My grandfather's stories? Or
no, the
this
old guy.
No. I mean, no.
Yeah.
It's just... And,
like, oh, yeah. I have no idea who those people are.
And in some ways that old guys talk means they're getting old. But another way that old guys talk, I love, is just a way that they were. Like, they kind of always talk that way their whole life. Like, the fact that my grandfather knew this guy's first and last name, the day he was born, the business he owned, his kids' names, that guy's kids were born.
But would forget his anniversary.
And forget something that morning that he was supposed to do.
Yeah.
But and so... as annoying as there's like this, like, I'll hear people like hate on old people, and I just take that time as a second to take in basically something that is leaving this world one day at a time. More and more people who are this way, are just this way of talking, this way of thinking, this way of seeing the world is going away and will be gone forever. And it's held in these individuals. And so you can take a chance to, this freaking old coot, or you could sit there for a second and take 20, 30 seconds more out of your day, or 10 minutes, or a whole half hour out of your day, and just listen to someone talking. Yeah, they're dragging on about something too, but you can find the upsides in it too, to listen to the cadence of their speech, and the way that they tell stories, and the way that they see the world, because it's fleeting, and it's going away day by day.
Smoke break.
Smoke break.
Hey, Ken, it's Mick, and I've got something important to talk about. We all hope we never find ourselves in a self-defense situation, but life's unpredictable. Enter the National Self-Protection Plan from Attorneys on Retainer, an actual credible law firm you can put on retainer for your self-defense needs. For just $35 a month, you get national coverage in all 50 states for criminal and civil legal representation in self-defense situations, complete with a 24/7, 365 toll-free emergency line. That's real legal support when you need it most. What's in the package? Bail bonds, scene cleanup, firearm replacement, even mental health counseling. Plus, 0 fees for a laundry list of defense-related costs like expert witnesses. So support the show and get yourself some peace of mind. Click the link in our show notes or visit our sponsors page to sign up for the National Self-Protection Plan from Attorneys on Retainer.
Hey folks, Pat here. If you're like Mick and I, you're a fan of classic tales like Lonesome Dove, Blood Meridian, The Three-Body Problem, and Steinbeck's East of Eden. With Audible, you can dive into these epic stories anytime, anywhere. Sign up for a free month, and your first audiobook is on the house. To start your free trial and support our show, click the link in the show notes or swing by the sponsors page on our website.
Want an awesome website for your podcast? Check out Podpage. We use it for the Mick Pat show, and it's a game changer. Set it up in minutes, no coding needed. Support the show by using our link to get started. Your podcast deserves a home as great as ours. Podpage, the one-stop solution. No, I know exactly what you mean, man. I actually, in our church life group, there's this gentleman, Stan the Man, and he was just sharing about how Stan the man's an older guy, you know. I think he's approaching 70. I think 70 is on the horizon.
Yeah.
And his aunt, his last aunt, just passed away. She was like a second mom to him, and he was just telling us, it's very strange because he's now at a new phase in life where that whole generation is gone.
He is the old generation. He didn't know he was, but now he is.
But like his aunt and all of his mom's siblings, all of his dad's siblings, all of their friends, they're gone, dude. Like none of them are alive. And everyone who's attending his aunt's funeral is the next generation, right? Is him, his sister, his cousin, right? Like the younger family. And I just thought that was really strange because I've had a couple realizations, in my near 30 years of like kind of those experiences of like, these really weird epiphanies of like life change things. But that one, like from his perspective, it's interesting hearing an older man, a man who you would think has experienced it, right? Experienced everything there is. And he's going into a new stage of life, like where he realizes like he's the old guard now. Like the old guard, his old guard just is done. And now he's the old guard, right? And that's just a weird thing, to see like someone at that, like to see someone older than you, wiser than you, having lived through more, have more life experience. And then they're just like, yeah, it really just hit me that like a whole generation is now gone. And she was the last one. And like, it's really sad, but it's also like really powerful because it makes you like, holy smokes, like we need to ask people like questions. We need to learn what their recipes are, right? We need to learn how they do things because that knowledge just gets lost. And I think a lot of it, is on the internet. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's so lost on the internet too that like a lot of people are gonna be like, dude, holy shit, I never thought to ask my grandmother or my aunt or whatever her corn pudding recipe.
Right.
And you're just going to think like, wow, that corn pudding's a memory and I'll never have it again.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to ask Alexa. Yeah. And everybody's asking Alexa and whatever
the most popular
food vlogger of the day throws it up there. Yeah. And it's just gone. I think from even those little simple things of the way that things are done, and those little pieces are what are your culture, what are your heritage, what are where you came from. And as a society, we've become homogenized more and more and more and more over the years, where it is, you just ask Google how to make the cookies and you're not going to call your grandma, ask her how to make the cookies. So it's like having that mindfulness to ask, whatever, pick up the phone. And it's going to take longer, and they're going to tell you a story that you don't want to hear.
And they're going to tell you about someone you don't know.
Yeah.
And the shoes they wore and their birthday and who their kids were.
Yep. All that same stuff. And so is it easier? No, but then you do the hindsight thing, and the hindsight thing can be a hard thing to swallow when you look back and you go, oh man, I don't even have that opportunity or chance now to do that or ask that. And so like I recorded at the end of his life, my dad's dad, he loved to tell stories, and towards the last couple years of his life, whenever we'd go see him, they have an awesome house with boats and jet skis, and it's just a fun place. You recreate. You go there, you recreate yourself the whole day.
I think that's what grandparents turn into.
It's so awesome.
Is it just a way for your grandkids to have recreation?
It's so awesome. But then I just took this shift where I just sat next to him for the whole morning, the whole day, whatever, listen to him talk. And some of the sicknesses he had at the end of his life compromised his vocal cords and his voice and how he talked. And so his voice was really weak. But I would always sneak my iPhone to the voice recorder and just slide it over to him. And so I have about like 8 hours of him just talking and telling stories. And it's all the stories that my family's heard over and over and over and over again. But the day he died, even though you heard it 1,000 times over, they're gone forever now. And so I wanted to like record those things. And so I have them saved. I have them like quadruple backed up. They're on like 3 different hard drives, my phone and my email, everything, because I don't want to lose them. And someday I want to sit down and really go through them and make a little audio file of some of the stories he told. And even with all that, whatever, 8 hours of stories I have, it's still like not, it doesn't even scratch the surface of like when I'm going through my day, sometimes I'll think of a story that he would tell and wish that I'd gotten that one recorded too. I'm like, oh man,
yeah,
it's gone now.
Yeah. You know, I actually did the same thing with my grandmother when her cancer was bad. And we thought, you know, there's a chance she was going to pass away pretty soon there. I sat down, I like got as a gift, as a Christmas gift, I bought her this like really fancy voice recorder. I don't think she's ever used it for anything else. But I put an SD card in it. Dude, I should like move those files off so that way they don't get overwritten. But I just sat down with her and I said, Grandma, I don't want your life to be forgotten. I know you have lived 3 lives. Like you, like, and the truth is, dude, I don't know a single person who has lived a harder life and seen more change than my grandmother. I know people have, and I know they exist, and I know a lot of them are dead. Like I know our buddy Lucas Dukas. He's told me that his grandfather, as a boy, rolled into Greeley, Colorado in a wagon and had to board up the windows because of the Indians. And that man died not too long after, if I remember correctly. He died I think in the 80s or maybe the 90s, but
like
he
landed on the moon.
That's the biggest thing. Yeah, we landed on the moon. That dude, imagine being in a freaking wagon pulled by horses and looking up at the moon, and then in your lifetime, people are on it, dog. That's insane.
Yeah, that generation. Yeah, that generation we're talking about, I think they will. I think no matter what happens in the future, they will always will have seen the most change like in the world.
Substantial change. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But I mean, like all that said, like hearing my grandmother's story and knowing what I did of it, I knew I didn't want it to just disappear. And so we sat down and I kind of, coached her through it a little bit of like with questions of like, what about like, what about this decade? What about this decade? And there's a lot of things that I know that she like didn't spend a lot of time on or go into detail because she just didn't want that to be how we remembered it. But like she was very honest for a lot of stuff. And just like, dude, essentially like living on one side of the railroad tracks when literally whole communities were divided by a set of railroad tracks. And you had the have-nots on one side and the haves on the other. And the have-nots all lived in one building with no walls, just some curtains around the here, and you had dirt floors and a stove that functioned as heat, furnace, boiled your water for a bath, and also the way you cooked your food, right? And like just the insanity of like her life, she's still alive today, and like how the world changed from, I want to say 48, 1948 to now is like mind blowing for her. Yeah. Like it's just incomprehensible. I don't even know how I'd put it into words, right? Like think about that, like, you know, to the point where right now what you and I are doing it wasn't even possible.
Mm-hmm.
It couldn't exist with the technology at the time when she was born. You know, that like there wasn't enough equipment to possibly manage and record all of this.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't know. It blows my mind to hear. And then just, you know, the hardships she lived through, like a lot of violence, a lot of like really hard days, you know, and now she lives very comfortably in a very nice home. She, you know, lived out in Hollywood, California in a nice, really big home. But like, I don't know, man. It's just kind of crazy when you see like I think that generation, you know, the generation before before the 20th century and up until the baby boomers, like the early boomers. I think those are the people who have seen the most.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I can't, it's funny. It's funny, but I don't like the okay boomer stuff. A little old fashioned that way. Like, respect your elders, folks.
Well, you just know good boomers. You know, that's the thing is like we know good boomers.
Yeah. So it's like, stop that. Yeah. They don't know how to upload a Snapchat of their genitals. Sorry.
I don't have a problem with it.
And guess what? They wouldn't. Yeah. Even if they did know how.
Yeah. No kidding.
Some do, but whatever. But did you, is your grandfather still alive?
My blood grandfather died of some cancer way back in the day.
You ever knew him?
2007.
So you knew him a little
I knew
bit.
him, but I wasn't close with him at all because he was pretty abusive to my like mom and her brothers and my grandmother. And
so were they separated before you came into the picture?
They divorced when my mom was like still in high school.
Yeah.
Divorce is like a strong word. They packed. My grandmother packed up and left and ran away.
Yeah.
Right. And then she met my current grandfather, Dave. And Dave has always been my grandfather. Yeah. Always kind of stepped in and filled that like father figure role. Was very much, I would say, the main influence of probably me coming to know Jesus. You know. So yeah, I really look up to him a lot. He's not perfect. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's just like anyone else. But I would say he's a man that with age has only become more humble. Yeah. And kinder rather than letting it, you know, I really believe that as you get old, you either become more sweet or more bitter. Yeah. And there's no in between. You either turn into vinegar or you either turn into honey. And I think I love my grandmother so much, but I think she's turned into vinegar, dude. She's so ornery, dog, dude. I mean, she is so sweet and kind to me and my wife and stuff like that. But like, she's just the ornery old cuss. Like, just an ornery. I honestly think of her as a goat, dude. Like, she is just, there's not a mountain she couldn't climb. And if you told her she wasn't allowed to do it, she'd do it. And she's just unkillable, dude. Like, you ever see like just the mountain goats and you're like, how in the did you get up there? Yeah. And then you see them like fall off like a ledge, you know, dragged off by an eagle, and they like kind of roll on their back and they get back up. And you're like, what the hell is that thing? My grandmother is that hardy, you know, she's hardy. My grandfather is more like just a classic Yogi Bear. Like, he's the bear that like he's not the bear that you find in the woods and you're like, oh shit. He's the bear you find in the woods and the bear looks at you and is like, oh shit, and runs off, right? Like, he's just a gentle big old dude with his hand in the honey pot, right? Yeah. And it's just, oh dude, I love it. And together they're a very good couple, and they really do take care of each other really well. But learned a lot from their marriage. But yeah, that generation is just pretty crazy. I mean, I know my grandfather's seen a lot too, and like just in Colorado and how it's changed. But Yeah, dude. I don't. What is even the generation? What do we call it? Aren't they called the Great Generation? Like the people born in like 1880 that ended up not 1880, but like
later on. Yeah,
1890, 1900.
The greatest generation.
The greatest generation. Yeah, because those are the people who fought World War One, survived the Great Depression, were like young in the Depression, and then went into World War II.
World War II.
Yeah,
yeah,
insane, dude. Can you imagine some of those people just? Can you imagine how like insane the mental capability of some of them were? Like, especially like the lifelong military personnel who were like, they retired at like 60 during Vietnam. Like, absolutely mind blowing to me. That like someone with enough heart and with enough soul and enough mental capability could have gone into World War One after they just finished their stint on one of the far west bases with dealing with like Indian stuff, right? Like, you know, like it's not hard. It's not too hard to believe that someone straight up like enlisted at 17, 18 and had some, you know, days riding on the horse, going up against train robbers and Indians, then found themselves in, you know, I'm trying to think of like a really big fight in World War One.
Just
Versailles.
Yeah. Any trench where you're building the trench out of with people's body parts sticking out of it. And any battle. Yeah,
and then in World War II found themselves in North Africa, and then eventually pushing into, you know, heart of Germany, and then after that found themselves literally being, you know, master gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps, and talking about back in my day the Corps. Back in my day, the Corps was, before we had the business of killing Germans, it was killing, you know, Native Americans, whatever. I guess they didn't say Native Americans at that time, but you know, and then they end up literally in Vietnam as like as a master gunnery sergeant right before they retire or whatever. Like, that's mind-boggling to me. That could have been like a whole military career. Nowadays, like, dude, someone's military career, a whole military career of that same time, that same breadth, has been just the war on terror, dog.
Right.
Like 80s to now, and like it's hard to comprehend.
Oh yeah, like my great grandfather, he was Italian. His parents were immigrants, and big family in California, and he joined the Air Force in World War II. He wasn't old enough. He was 21 or 22.
Wow. How old? When was your grandpa born?
Gosh, this is where, like what we were talking about before, how like my papa could name everybody's date and where the hospital they were born in. Yeah. Hate that I can't do that, because he was 21 or 22 when he got into World War II. So
wow.
So he was born like 1920s.
Damn, dude.
So he was born 1920s.
He was way older than my grandparents.
This is my great grandfather.
Oh, your great grandfather.
Gotcha. So my great grandfather.
I was gonna say your great grandfather. If that was your granddad, he had like, your dad old. He had your dad real old.
He's like Picasso or Mick Jagger, just later in life, that's still awesome. Firing.
That's crazy.
But
anyways, great granddad Pat.
Yeah, he was 21 or 22 when he joined the Air Force and became a pilot. And so he flew all through. He did World War II, Korea, Vietnam. In between those times, he just came back and was a carpenter, did construction. But when it was time to go, he'd go fly B-17s and B-52 bombers. And so similarly, where he just had, you know, that's a lot of wartime. And as a bomber pilot, you wonder, he didn't classically, like, he didn't talk a lot about the war, the wars he was in, but you got to believe that, like, he was a major instrument of death for
No kidding.
for a lot of people.
Or just
with those planes.
Like, think about like what I mean. That guy saw the cutting edge military technology. Like that guy went from single prop, sophisticated V8 engines or whatever in I can't actually remember what our planes were called. I just remember the Japanese had Zeros in World War II, but I can't remember what ours were called. Our propeller
we
planes.
had a couple, but we had one plane, and then toward in the middle to end of World War II, we had the P-51 Mustang.
Yeah, that's right, the Mustang. But then can you imagine that Mustang going away, and then like the Korea one, it's like, what the hell is going on here?
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, we're strapping rockets to them now.
Mm-hmm.
And then like, because Korea still had like, Korea was like weird, man. Korea, we had a lot of prop planes.
We had a lot of wooden guns.
Yeah, but like, it was also like Korea was the first time we had like an actual jet. Like a jet engine being used on a plane.
Yeah, like and then in Vietnam, it was F-4 Phantom planes. And, and he flew the bombers. What's crazy to me about the bomber planes is like they were the pinnacle and the peak of aviation at the time in World War II.
Literally fortress. They don't just call it that to hoity-toity. Yeah. It's a fortress in the sky.
Yeah, and they remained in service.
Still to today, dude.
For a very long time, so it's like, that's an incredible plane. So he was, I just think it was, he saw so many things, and I wish I knew his stories of all the things he'd seen and done. And my uncles might know a few of his stories and a few more details on what he saw or did, but that generation had to, over that span of years, there was a lot of warfare, and there was a lot of, and it was also kind of like the country was all in on a lot of that stuff, every house had a man out for it. And so, I think, old people don't get the credit due on the things they went through or the things they saw, and how, those people who were born in the early 1900s and got to live out and to see, the year 2000, they saw the world change in so many crazy ways.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is the thing that like I almost envy a little bit. I guess part of me wishes there was a little bit more hereditary tie to the military in my family. Like my oldest uncle, who he passed away before I was born. My middle name is actually, I'm named after him. My middle name has his name. But he was in the Air Force. Mm-hmm. But he was like the only person to really serve. I guess my hereditary grandfather served in the Navy during Vietnam, I think. Mm-hmm. It's hard. I can't remember. But there's just not like a lot of stuff tied to it. But excuse me, there's people today flying not just their dad, but their granddads and their great granddads B-2s, B-1s, and B-52s. Dude, the B-52 bomber, we're not making new ones. All we're doing is maintaining the ones we have.
Yeah.
And they theorize that it could be good up until like with modern technology and like the engines we're developing and how compatible that plane is with new technology. There's a good chance the B-52 will be flying. It's like it will be retired in 2100 something.
Wow.
Think about that, dude. Think about how like I've listened. I don't know anyone personally, but I've listened to like people speak about how they're like, yeah, I've sat in the same cockpit as not just my father, not just my grandfather, but my great grandfather. And I've heard the stories of how he was in that cockpit, one of them, right? And rounds punched up through the floor where, one part failed or something like it. Like they looked out one window and they saw that like an engine was out. Like And when I sit in it, I'm in there with them.
Mm-hmm.
And like I can remember all their memories, and that plane remembers all their memories. And it's still alive. It's still going. The B1 and the B2, which are older than the B-52, they're not even the B1 will be phased out in 2036, B2 phased out in 2032, maybe sooner. But the fact that those planes are still flying, like it's really hard to kind of wrap your mind around. But there's a jealousy there, I would say. I mean, definitely for me. Like, I can't say that there's not like an exciting, thrilling part of being a part of history, right? Like knowing like your bloodline is so deeply ingrained in history. Those are the people we should try to find, dude. We should try to hunt down the people who have a lineage of pilots in the same cockpit.
The same plane. And the stories there would be incredible. Like for this plane that's been flying for so long. World War II. In World War II, we didn't have plastic yet.
Damn, bro.
Okay, so
dude, that's fucking crazy. Dude, we had plastic. Are you? Come on, dude. I'm gonna fact check you right now.
Fact check it right now. I need to know because I've believed this.
Pat, we had plastic, dog. Like it just wasn't widely available, I guess. But
check into it because I'm pretty sure. I mean, just everything was glass, metal,
or paper.
And paper. Like that was it. And so, like, I have on my wife's side of the family, there's an old farm boy who's
Pat.
What? How wrong am I?
In the United States alone, plastic production increased by 300% during World War II.
There we go. But so,
to your credit, I don't think there was a lot. 300%. I don't think there was a lot. But I was gonna say, like, I'm 100% sure. Like at least when I think about like the gas mask in World War II, there's plastic components.
Rubber.
Well, rubber's plastic.
Yeah, but just, point being that what I'm trying to explain is we developed so many technologies throughout that time, but the guys could get stuff done with so little. Like this guy who was in my family, his job was to build the gliders that some of the gliders that went in, like the ones in Normandy that they flew back behind enemy lines that weren't detected. And so they couldn't get them light enough, and they couldn't figure out how to get these things where they could glide as far as they needed to go. And so they went to the extent of using animal bone for the grommets of the cables that would control the glider. So like,
that's crazy.
In order for these gliders to get back where they needed to go, they were stripping as much weight as they could. And so, yeah, they would even do, it's like, and it just took a couple old school farm boys to go, well, we'll just, take a hacksaw to some whatever femur bones and hollow them out. And that's how they got the glider's weight down to where they needed to go.
That's bonkers. That is bonkers. I mean, that makes kind of sense though. Because I imagine someone was like, if only we can figure out the mathematical formula needed to get the generated lift to be greater than the weight for these gliders. And someone was like, well, why the do birds fly?
Yeah.
Birds got bones in them wings. We could use bone on these. Plastics, just so you know.
Hit me with it.
Invented in 1907 from kind of what we understand of plastics today. But 1862 was when the first ever man-made plastic was developed. But 1907 was when like we went away from just like rubber, like just rubber, like to being like an actual hard plastic or whatever. But like it still wasn't like a common thing, and it was still like super chemically dangerous and very poisonous.
He said it went up by 300% during World War II.
During World War II, so production increased by 300%.
That like expedited the technology during that time.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, so to say it didn't exist, incorrect. But the fact that like the technology really wasn't there to use plastic on a wide scale.
Yeah.
and then to go from that to what we have now.
Our guns are made of plastic.
Oh yeah, like everything has these plastic components where they'd have to machine it out of metal.
Yeah, true. I think that is pretty crazy. I think a lot about too just the machining, like the absolute insane engineering that we have for like developing like I think the thing that like absolutely like I don't know how I could the thing I'd want to do the most is go back in time to perhaps like 1900, like just the year 1900, not that far long ago, right? Let's just say 100 years. Go back to 1922 and just bring literally a modern day phone and sit down with the brightest minds. Like I don't want to take it and like hold it in front of like just the most generic layman. Like I want to sit down with the wisest, most intelligent people, cutting edge, minds who are at the forefront of developing technologies. And I just want to bring it before them and sit down and say, open it, touch it. And of course, like there won't be service, right? There won't be any service, but they will still experience a touch screen.
Right.
They will still experience
a digital camera.
Yeah, a digital camera. They will still can you imagine just a digital camera? Like, what the it has our souls, or just like a video, like a video camera, but just letting them look at it because there were electronics, but like there weren't. So when it's like computers work within bits, and a bit is like you can look at videos on YouTube or images of what the first bits were, and they look like socket bulbs that you would put in for perhaps like a vehicle circuit, but they're big, like they're really big. They're like the size of a beer can, and they're in this network mesh. And someone would point to them and be like, "This is one bit. Each one of these bulbs is technically one bit of information." And you can store a sequence among them, and it would be like 8 bits, 16 bits. And then when it got to the point of being like a kilobyte, there was just meshes and nets of these bulbs. And they slowly, as machining got better and technology got, better and better, they got smaller, smaller, to the point where they were like, hey, we don't even need lights on these things. Or even the lights got smaller, the diodes, to the point where now, Pat, we're recording on a 32 gigabit
and it's
chip,
tiny,
and it's smaller than any light in this room. And I just I would want them to just see that piece of like the phone and theorize what it is and just be like, that is that. What that has over 1 billion of those, because at that point in time, they were just basically starting to try to understand about how can we record information, because there was no way to do it. There was no way to do it other than like pen and paper, or like a record. But how would we electronically record information? So I don't know. But I think that would be like one of the most fascinating things, or like, my kind of like unga bunga caveman brain. I just want to take like a modern day classic, like just like take an AR-15 back and just let them take a look at like a modern day, weapon, modern day platform, and take it back to like 1901 or whatever, and just be like, take a look at this thing. Look at it. Can you imagine their minds when they're like, how do you have like this cartridge? How does this cartridge exist? And how can this gun handle repeated pressures as fast as you can pull the trigger? Like, that's madness. How does it not explode in your face?
Yeah, I think about some of that stuff sometimes too. Like, I had a friend once who, and it's an obvious statement, but it was just funny when he's like, if you could take a Bradley assault vehicle with 5 guys in it back to 1776, you could win the Revolutionary War in one day.
Oh yeah,
which is it's an obvious statement, but it's just interesting to think about.
Yeah,
just like, huh? And if you go back too far with your iPhone, they're just gonna to the brightest minds of the time, they're going to burn you at the stake.
Yeah, you're just going to be witchcraft, dude. Yeah, they'll think you're... Well, that's another thing, too. Like, you always see these time travel shows or something like that. I'm like, bro, if the government ever got a whiff that you existed, they'd nuke you. Like, not nuke you, but they'd erase you. You know, you're too dangerous to let exist. If you got in the wrong hands and someone tortured information out of you, like, no way. But anyways, I always find that stuff so fascinating. But actually, you know, we've actually never asked one another this question, but if you could go back in time, what time period would you go back to? And I'll give it in two ways. One, you get to go back, you get to visit it for as long as you like. And then you get to come back to modern day. The other one is you go back and you're there, and the rest of your life will be there.
Yeah.
You can take whatever back with you that you want, but you're there until you die.
It's funny. I instantly, in my evil self, go to like the Biff method.
Yeah. Dude, Biff is the greatest villain, dog. I love Biff, dude.
I'm like, all right, we're going to make some big bets.
We're going to make some big money.
And my kids are going to be rich.
It's insane how that is so imprinted on us. Like, I remember that so clearly from a kid, that movie. And like, I remember even being as a kid, I'm like, I don't know why, but all I know is that old man went back in time to his young man and gave him a betting book. And like, this is my thoughts, you know, in like middle school. I'm like, so if I ever go back in time, I'm just going to take a betting book.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I think like to just go see it and then like return from it, I'd probably pick a very ancient civilization.
No, come on. You gotta be more specific.
And I can be, yeah. So like, you know, cause there's like in ancient Egypt, they speak about, there's a guy who speaks about the first talking about Atlantis, like even 9,000 years before that. Yeah. So it's like, or if you get like the crazy haired guy on the History Channel who's like always like, it was aliens. Yeah. You know, you could go back and see that go back to one of those, go back to like ancient Mesopotamia, go back to the Mayans. Damn, bro. Go back to like the city of Jericho in the Bible. They say that it existed. What they can find from it is it existed like 9,000 years before it fell. So, and it fell in like 1500 BC. So that's like you're getting back there in time. So like to see like, yeah. So it's still broad to pick one of those, but yeah, I'd pick something like that, just back in time that you could come back from. Just to see
where they'd sacrifice you the moment you showed up.
Yeah, so
when they saw you,
you have to hide. Bro,
you wouldn't even look like anyone. Like, I'm just thinking about how much our faces have changed over time. Like our posture and our build. You go back in time and like most of those people would have like I bet they have like wide foreheads, deep socketed eyes, large noses, and they were all mouth breathers.
Oh yeah.
I bet they're all just for sure. You know, like they're only 1,000 years removed from a caveman. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think that'd be crazy. Okay, then how long would you spend there though? How much time would you spend?
Yeah, I think like
you still age.
You still age.
Yeah.
It's like one of those would be like, I'd go spend 14 days there, go see what's going on. The
quick vacation,
quick
Hawaii trip
in and out. You know, this is to see what's going on there. My choice B would be to go back to like Pleistocene era in America to see the crazy large beasts that lived here. Yeah, ground sloths, mammoths, like huge animals, huge carnivores, and see what this place looked like in that time, and then get out of there before I got eaten. But if I had to go to a place and exist and live out the rest of my life there, like
the 80s.
I'm not going to cop out and be like, well, I like my life's good now. And like, but you know, or to be like, well, I'd go back to like 1930 and kill Hitler.
No, okay, I'll say this. Your time machine breaks and you're stuck here.
Yeah. So I would go to, it's hard for me to not want to go back to be a cowboy.
So bad.
Even though in reality,
so bad.
It's not a 1950s show. It's a just dirty.
It's Red Dead Redemption.
Horrible time.
It's misery. A lot of dead people.
Yeah.
No morality. A lot of no good teeth. No one has good teeth.
Yeah. It's just it's a rough time. So it's like I want to pick that because I've like lifted that up so high, the glory of the cowboy days.
Yeah.
Or go be a mountain man trapper when the world was your oyster and you could just come out here and just kill a bunch of beavers and bears and But I'd probably like just go be a cop in the 70s.
Dude.
Yeah.
That'd be baller.
You know.
Can you imagine how freaking insane that'd be, like being a cop in the 70s, then like a cop in the 80s, retiring in the 90s?
Exactly.
That'd be the most insane career. Okay, but I did give you a stipulation. You could bring whatever you wanted with you.
Oh, like, go back there and show it.
I said you could bring whatever you wanted with you.
Oh, I didn't hear that part. That changes the whole game. Because, man, I'd probably go back to like, I'd go back to the 1700s in America.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd take a helicopter with me.
What?
Yeah.
You don't even know how to fly a helicopter. Neither does anyone else.
I better figure it out before I do it. But that's what I would do.
You would take a helicopter back to the 1700s?
Now, like, I'm obviously
1776.
No, I'm not trying to help the revolution. I'm just this is selfishly because I could just like you could just. And I'm ignoring the fact like I'd run out of fuel, all that stuff.
Great Scott, it's a dragon.
So but I would just like you just fly around, drop in wherever you want. Just
hilarious.
Bop around America in the 1700s. That's
there wasn't America in the 1700s, dog.
I know.
So it was just some dirt huts.
Yep. And that's
They're still lynching up witches, dog.
I know. That's you got to have a good escape route.
What would you take back to the 70s to be a cop? A futuristic gun. It's kind of funny because we all still use the same guns.
No, because I just still use just a 6-shooter 357 just because. But like in that, oh man, for my cop work,
take back a modern day Forerunner.
Yeah,
like a modern day Tacoma.
Yeah, or like
no one has no way of like I don't know how to change the oil on this.
Yeah, or even just like let's say there was an iPhone that was usable. If you take it back,
no, dude, no. You can't do that.
No,
you can't use a cell phone.
No computers.
You can take back a computer and plug it in.
The internet with me.
No.
Okay, so the
Like you could definitely take back a modern day computer and plug it into the wall,
and it just turns on, and I
can knocks the power out for a whole city grid.
I can play like a game on it that's been downloaded.
I would show that actually. Yeah, take back Halo to the 70s.
Yeah,
revolutionize the world.
Or I'd because I'm going back and forth between like what would be fun and also it would just be the most selfish gain.
Yeah,
like the take the betting book thing, take whatever, take some sort of weapon back in time and just become the king of the universe.
Yeah.
Or would I also just go back in time and like, take like the nicest video camera that exists right now, like an ARRI, like cinematic camera.
Yeah.
Where you can just go there and you can just film stuff better than anybody else. I don't know.
Wow.
How about you?
That last answer was weak ass shit. I hate that you said that. That was so sentimental.
Which one?
I just take it back to video camera to get everything in high definition and really capture the memories.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever.
No, that's also so I can win academies and stuff.
Oh, Academy Awards. Yeah. Become Spielberg.
Yeah.
Spielberg comes to you to learn from you when he's just a young man.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be cool.
I'd bring him all his ideas. Like, hey, dude, we should get some like dinosaurs.
Yeah, Jurassic Park. Also, did you know the other great successful dinosaur franchise, The Land Before Time, was originally directed by Steven Spielberg?
No, I didn't
first
know
one.
that.
Yeah.
Really? I
Yeah,
love
the
that
first one.
movie.
Those are my favorite childhood movies. All right, if I was going back in time and I could just visit it and I could bring anything, I would bring first and foremost, a giant, like a tranquilizing rifle with a load of cartridges,
Mm-hmm.
and 2, a load, as many as I could fit on my person.
Hot Pockets.
Watches.
Mm.
And I would go back in time to the dinosaurs, dog, and I would start tranking dinosaurs and just putting watches on them.
just to mess with people in the future.
Just letting the fossil record with so many people, dude. Just like, can you imagine like the first paleontologist to be like, is this a watch around this T-Rex's arm? Like, that would, okay, like, so that would be one. Because I'd be able to come back in time and like, I'd come back to Back to the Future.
Come back to see your fallout.
And I'd just be like, people just flabbergasted, or like maybe it would, like, nothing would change because it's just a total cover up. And I'd like try to find paleontologists and just interview them and be like, so what about the watches? And just watch their eyes go wide, like, how the you know about the watches? But in all seriousness, I need to see a dinosaur so bad. Dinosaurs are my favorite things. You know, like we talked about in another podcast. As a 5-year-old boy, you base your identity off of 4 things: space, construction trucks, dinosaurs, cowboys. I based mine off of dinosaurs. I was a dinosaur geek until, I mean, I still am. What can I say? Yeah, so I definitely want to see dinosaurs, and do whatever I need to do to see them. Yeah, I'd probably, like, in all seriousness, go back in time to dinosaurs and just try to bring a digital camera and like a nice, like, Sony with a good, backpack full of batteries, and just get as many photographs and videos as I can, so that way we have a really good idea what they look like and we're not just guessing. I know that's controversial for you, Pat, because I know you don't believe in dinosaurs. But
I don't believe in dinosaurs, dancing, or shooting dice.
how does Mean Girls open up? It's like, God created man and dinosaurs.
Oh yeah, I mean, it goes like this. And on the 8th day, God created the Remington bolt-action rifle to fight off the dinosaurs and the homosexuals. Oh my gosh, dude. Mean Girls is a great. We should do a brews and reviews on Mean Girls because I freaking love that movie. Anyways, if I could go back there and my time machine breaks and I brought my stuff with me to fit in. I'm just trying to think of like something where I could have serious impact, like make the best out of a bad situation. Because if my time machine breaks, I'm going to be miserable, right? Well, my wife's not there. My friends aren't there. You know, I'm just constantly stressing out about the great impact that my choices will have with the butterfly effect. What's interesting is, like, you know, just the level of education you have today. Take it back in time 500 years ago, and like you would be the greatest anything.
No, I feel like I'm worthless because most of my education is data. Science, like data analytics now. Now I guess I think I would try to go back in time, probably to the 1920s. And live the roaring 20s into World War II.
Would you be a bootlegger? Would you sell illegal alcohol?
I'd be everything, man. I'd be everything. I would go back with as much. And here's what I do. I would go back in time. I would bring a solid tome of the conflicts of World War II. And then the other tome would just be the manufacturing process of like the schematics of like. Hell, actually, I'd probably just bring back a Daniel's defense rifle
and some nods,
and like nods. They're too far away from that. You know what I mean? But like, I think like if I brought back a Daniel defense rifle and showed them it, they could get pretty close. And I would just try to encourage in the 1920s with that material of like the greatest conflicts of World War I or whatever strategize. I would try to encourage America to get involved sooner, end it sooner, save more lives, and also have this super tight weapon technology and remain like, weapon powerhouse. That, or hear me out here. I know this sounds super controversial, but you know what? I think I'd love to go back in time to like. So I love Dietrich Bonhoeffer, German Christian theologian. And I think if I could, I would straight up go after Hitler in his teenage years and try to get him in the tutelage of Bonhoeffer and just nix it all, dude. Because I honestly think if Bonhoeffer was able to just sit down with the young man Hitler who has these dreams of painting the world, isn't, he didn't have all this sick ideas about the Jews and stuff yet. He wasn't twisted. He didn't have these. One, he also wasn't on a shitload of drugs yet, right? I think that would have, I don't know what that would have ended up being. Because, of course, like, if you look at World War II, there are more snakes in the grass than just Hitler, right? Like, Hitler was the big bad guy, but he also let a lot of other bad guys do their thing. There was a lot of other German scientists, other Nazis that took advantage of the situation to do horrible, nefarious things. So it's hard to say if like Hitler wasn't there, would it have never happened, right?
Right.
But I do think like Hitler ended up being a very charismatic individual. What if, rather than like the whole smother Hitler as a baby, it's convince Hitler that the best thing he can do is show love to every human being he comes across.
Right.
Let that charisma hopefully take its place. I don't know, man. I don't know. I know that's a super controversial thing because Hitler is like, he's a bad dude. But like, part of me just thinks like, there's a lot of certain things that happen to make someone be a bad person. And what if you could kind of alter that with like good influence?
I agree. Yeah. I'm changing my answer.
Okay.
I would take Pock Brox and a Furby back to the Salem witch trials.
Holy shit. Just start throwing Pop Rocks in people's mouths and like, what would you do with the Furby?
Just freaking turn it on, dude.
Where would you put it?
Right on the freaking...
Is some guy's wooden mud hut?
No, in the church. I just set it right up there and just let it go. Just a Furby and a Chia Pet.
Actually, have you seen those Harry Potter wands? Like the replicas where you put the special paper in them and they're like a kinetic lighter. And they heat up and I guess I'm not exactly sure how they work. As far as I know, like they heat up and then they combust the paper out because it's like a paper wad out of a musket. But the paper is a very flammable paper, so it burns up like Chinese lanterns do. But there's these videos of them where like, you stuff the paper in and then you click the wand and it shoots out what looks like a fireball that burns away really quick. I would just take that back to the Salem witch trials, just start pointing at people and just scaring the out of them.
Oh my gosh.
Dude. Did you ever actually see, gosh, I can't remember, or read the book. Did you have to read a book in high school about the
Crucible?
Yeah, right? Isn't that it?
Yeah.
Where it's like just a bunch of girls in the town accusing everyone of being a witch.
Yeah.
Bro, dude, I watched the movie of that, and that movie broke my heart. That was a really good movie.
Yeah. The number one thing I think about from that movie
is the old man. When he's just got the big puppy dog eyes and they accuse him of being a witch. And it's like just like a single cutaway. Yeah. But then it just shows him hanging.
That is brutal. but the Daniel Day-Lewis character, is that the old man? I just said Daniel Day-Lewis is in that. I think it's him. And there's a scene where they make him like say all the 10 commandments in a row. And if he doesn't say them all and get all the 10 commandments right, he's like,
he's not the
faithless
old
man.
He's not the old man. He's the father, isn't he? Isn't
He's the father
in it?
Yep. But they question him about the 10 commandments. And I think about it sometimes. I just think I'd choke. I'd choke in that moment. I'd be effed. I wouldn't be able to do it. But it's a weird, basically, as far as I understand it, it was gossip and attention grabbing that went way out of hand and just turned into a very, very disturbing, what's it called? A contagion, social contagion, in their little community.
Yeah. Dude, yes. Daniel Day-Lewis was John Proctor. Wow, I never knew that, man. Thank you for showing me that, because he was great in that. And I will never forget reading the book was the big, like the first time this really hammered with me, but the way he did his scene about my name. And in the book, he has such an important scene where his wife is like pleading to him. His wife is like, just confess. Just confess and they'll spare you, right? Because they've said it. They're like, hey, John, just confess, right? Just confess you've done these things. And John Proctor's like, no, I haven't. I'm a good man. I'm an honorable man. I've done my best to follow the Lord and be a good husband, right? And all this stuff. And he's just like, if I confess, it ruins my name.
Yeah.
And I just remember like being in high school, like sophomore year or something like that, freshman year. And I was just like, dude, your name? What the hell does your name mean? My name, Mick. What the? Mick is just a name, man. It doesn't matter, right? Like, what's the importance of it? But then, like, that was the first time as a young man I realized, like, no, your name carries not just a sound. It's not, but it is an identity. It is a confidence. It is a trust. And there's so much wrapped into it. And like when I remember seeing Daniel Day-Lewis do that on screen, of like, leave me my name.
Yeah.
Above all else, do not take my name from me after I swing. And it was just like, whoa, like, okay. Because my name is all that people will know when I'm dead. And everything I've ever done will be associated when I'm gone. And even when I'm not in the room, my name exists in people's minds and people's mouths. And therefore, it is important because what do people say about my name? You know, my whole character, my whole existence is wrapped up in it. And I just remember, like, you know, classic John C. Reilly, like, explosion, you know, brain epiphany moment, right? And it just clicked for me so clearly, because at first I was like, dude, what is honor? You know, honor is folly. I just, you know, even, you know, in scripture and in the Bible, you know, it says like, dude, like, yes, like, be of good character, but like, don't be so wrapped up in your honor that it becomes pride, right? Like, don't let your honor blind you. But I think that was like the first time when I realized, like, your name's not just about like pride or ego or arrogance, but it's the very existence of you as a person. And what was that existence? You know, what characterized it? And if you confess to something you didn't do, then like it's totally soiled, because then if you ever go back on it, you're like, well, I just confessed to that to appease people. Well, now you're a liar too. Yeah. And it's just like, there's no winning after that point. And I just remember it clicking with me. I'm like, I get why this guy's about to die, just for the sanctity of not confessing to something he didn't do. Anyways, sorry, that was a tangent. That movie was so poignant to me when I was a young man. That one, and then in middle school, first time I cried reading a book. Didn't know books could do that. Where the Red Fern Grows. Yep. Fucked me up so hard, dog.
If you don't cry as a kid reading that,
oh my gosh, dude.
I don't know if I've met someone who hasn't had an emotional experience from reading that book.
You just don't know what you're signing up for. You're like,
yeah,
why am I, what, sixth grader mind. Why am I having to read this?
mm-hmm.
I have a dog. If my teacher just wants me to read a story about a boy and his dogs, why can't I just go tell my teacher about how I hung out with my dog?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, by the end of that movie, but not just the movie, but by the end of that book, dude, you're like, I don't want to grow up. I don't want my dogs to die, dude. I don't want to live to see that, dude. That's messed me so hard, dude. I'll never forget that.
It's an American classic right there.
The one that sticks with me is it's a nonfiction story, and I remember I had to read it in 7th grade, and it's always had a lifelong impact on me. It's called A Long Way Gone by Ishmael Bea, and it's his account of being a child soldier during the Sierra Leone Civil War in the 1990s.
Oh wow!
It's a heavy book, and I just remember it because, I mean, it was so visceral and had such an impact on me of like, holy cow, like this guy has been through so much. He's not only seen his parents and his community die in this Civil War, but he ended up being a kind of a mind-controlled child soldier where they like made him do drugs and carry a G3 automatic rifle, and go against the if I remember correctly, he was part of the rebels. Like the rebels got him and his friends and made them be child soldiers against like the established government at the time. And I think if I remember correctly, he was like 12 when he was this child soldier killing men. And they would get them like coked up on a mix of cocaine and gunpowder, and they'd make them snort it. It was called brown, and then they'd just send them at these like I guess you could say like government troops, kind of, the government forces, and they'd send them into camps as kids to start like stabbing the guys in their sleep. And then the older men or older kids of the rebel forces would come in and start shooting it up. And it had such an impact on me because, he goes through the whole story of essentially how he goes from being a normal kid in this African community. They were listening to hip hop songs on cassettes, and they would do their own rap songs and just being boys to, the whole Civil War. And then when I'm trying to remember, I think it was Red Cross that eventually caught him and some of his friends and tried to like rehabilitate them, and then sent them to New York to like an orphanage, and his whole journey of like going there and like rehabilitating and becoming an American. And he came and spoke at my high school. Really? Yeah.
How old was he then? Like 30s or 40s or
something like that. But it just was so crazy because I read his book in middle school, and then I listened to him, at my high school as like this older guy, and like how gentle and kind and soft spoken he was, and how all he wanted us to really understand as youth was that we had opportunities, that even if we were poor, lower class or like lower middle class, we still had like an insane amount of opportunity here in America. And that we were supposed to kind of really seize that and, you know, really embrace it. And so, but he has an audiobook of the book where he narrates it. And for anyone who wants a really powerful story, I recommend anyone to kind of pick it up and listen to it, because it was had a great impact on me. And heck, I'm probably gonna listen to it again as an adult now, and just kind of, I don't know, try to be thankful for kind of all that we have out here and the opportunities we have, and to kind of make something of ourselves. Because it was a very powerful book and had a huge impact on kind of I would say the mindset of it's really up to you to how far you're going to go in life. And, you know, it's up to you to really discipline yourself to go after what's out there, and take advantage of living in a country where we're not at civil war. We don't have child soldiers here, right? But yeah, Long Way Gone, Memoirs of a Boy Soldier by Ishmael Baya. That one has always stuck with me. Always loved it. And it always, you know, stood out as like the first book that I really read the whole thing all the way through. Didn't spark note it or anything like that. I remember I did like for my final project on it or something like that, I did like a painting in watercolor and got a really good grade on it. But it just was one of those like first times where, you know, in the American school system, you're kind of forced to like read all these books. You know, they're not indoctrinate or anything like that, but like they're part of the system of like learning our history or appreciating the culture and all that. And then this one was like, this is not about American society. This was a testimony to how hard it is in other parts of the world for other kids our age, and to realize like sitting in school right now is actually like a huge blessing. And it really reframed the way I like approach my education, things like that. So I would say like, I would go as far as to say like, if you got a child out there, you know, if you're a parent with a child who just hates school, they feel like your kid feels like it's just kind of a burden and they just want to get it over with as soon as possible. Man, have your kids read this book, read it with them, or listen to the audiobook together. And I think it will reframe your kid's mindset pretty powerfully. It is graphic. Like, it's a brutal,
it's like middle school, high school kids.
Yeah.
Too.
But it's definitely something I recommend with like, you know, parent supervision there to be around to like answer questions and go through it with your kid. But it definitely had a huge impact on the way I saw my own education and my own opportunities here, and made me really thankful for what I have.
Yeah, other places in the world have to experience, they experience things so differently than we do, and people go through hard things here too. But that reminds me of when I was a kid. You know, I watched the movie Hotel Rwanda when I was a kid, and we watched it right after my mom had gone to Rwanda and made some relationships there with some people. And when she came back, we watched Hotel Rwanda, and I was in middle school, and about a year and a half, I think, after my mom got back from there, some of the people who she made some relationships with came to America. And you watch a movie like that, and it's obviously impactful to see neighbors killing neighbors and these sorts of things. And then for me, there was some reframing done where the people who came to visit, I came into my house one day I was walking home from school, walked into my front door, and there were two people in my living room, two African people in my living room, and it and not like it was when I walked into my room or into my house, it wasn't just like, oh, there's two black people in my house. It's like, no, this is clearly like, these are two African people in my home, which is just, it never happened before for me.
Yeah.
And we were talking, and while we were talking, about who they were, and they came from Rwanda, and they were visiting people in town, and including my mom, and they, the guy who was there, we're talking, and in Rwanda, it was the two people groups, the Hutus and the Tutsis. And basically they weren't even actually different groups. From my understanding, they weren't truly two different groups. They actually just, while they were colonized, the colonizers basically separated them into two different groups based on their physical appearance. And the Tutsis kind of, if I'm remembering right, the Tutsis were kind of first-class citizens. The Hutus became second-class citizens. And it was the Hutus who massacred the Tutsis. And the guy standing in my living room was a Hutu who was a young adult male during this time. And he took a machete and killed Tutsis. Like, that was what he did. He was essentially the quote unquote bad guy of the story. And then that guy was standing in my living room.
That's nuts.
And as a person though, who was, completely, penitent for and remorseful for what had happened and all these things. But it was interesting, like you said, the guy who came and spoke at your school, you saw like this kindness and gentleness in him, but he had committed great atrocities. Similarly, when I met this man, he was kind and gentle, and he had also committed great atrocities. And I think it really reframed my mind around who you can be in this world. And to bring it to a modern perspective of like thinking of like cancel culture and certain things, and how you can do or say the wrong word or thing and kind of be written off in society forever, potentially, in certain ways or things you do. But that's not really what the measure of a human being is, or their goodness or their evil that's within them. And because a man sat in front of me once who'd done unspeakable things to people, who now was someone who was actually making great change in his community back home, and like reparating, and also, but like was a changed person. And so it forced me to even think about someone, to think about what does it really mean to like have true forgiveness of other people, or true forgiveness of yourself, or to be truly a changed person. These things, because like for me and the things that I feel like a lot of people in my life deal with, it's a pretty feels kind of like insignificant struggles in our lives. So you have these, I'm trying to, just like, kind of be a better dad, or kind of, I want to do this thing better, and I want to change who I am, and not do this so much. But then like, no, like there actually is, people can change, and there's a beautiful redemption that is like real in people's lives, and for people who really have, not to belittle any struggle anybody goes through, but you're never too far gone. You're never too far gone in those things.
Yeah. That's good, dude. That's true too. I mean, it's crazy. We talk about it a little bit sometimes, I think, too, when we've talked about, like, you know, the lives certain people have lived, and they ended up coming to know the Lord and becoming believers. And it's like it's insane to see how the life they lived for a majority of their life up until a certain point, and then they do a whole 180. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, I think that's no one is ever too far gone. And I think that's, like, you know, part of, you know, Ishmael and Bea's story is, like, it's a long way gone. You know, it's so far gone that in the moment you can't see becoming anything else, but you're not, the book's not called Too Far Gone. Right. I don't know. I think that's super important to remember, is that, like, no one is too far gone for redemption, for becoming a good human, a good person. And even if they did a lot of bad, there is still the opportunity to do a lot of good. But yeah, I think that's pretty sweet. That's a good cap on it. You know what I mean? Like, that's a good way to leave it. Yeah, for our kin out there, appreciate you all listening. Let us know your favorite books. Let us know time travel stuff. You know, where would you go? What would you bring? And yeah, perhaps even there's someone out there who has, you know, stories like the ones we kind of talked about. We'd love to talk to you. If you got a story out there of being a long way gone, but you're able to see how your life turned around, we'd love to hear it. Love to talk about it. But with that, it's been another show. We appreciate you, and yeah, till next time.
Thanks for tuning in. If you love this episode, drop us a review. If you have qualms or comments, leave us a voicemail on our website. While you're there, check out our latest news, merch, and deals from our sponsors. Till next time, Ken.